The sky was still bright with the soft gold of late afternoon when a single scream, high, sharp, panicked, ripped through the quiet neighborhood. Ayaan froze mid-step, his heart leaping into his throat. It was the kind of sound that made instinct take over before thought. He sprinted toward the source, vaulting over a low fence, his breath cutting through the warm daylight air. And there, trembling beneath a bush, covered in dirt and shivering with fear, was a tiny puppy with eyes so desperate that it felt like the world itself had stopped for a moment. The creature whimpered softly, as if begging for a second chance at life. Ayaan crouched, slowly extending his hand, not knowing that this single act of kindness would unravel the most unbelievable miracle he had ever experienced. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our W Insights. Your support keeps these real, heartfelt stories alive. Ayaan gently picked up the helpless puppy, its small heartbeat racing wildly against his palm. The little thing could barely stand, its ribs faintly visible, its fur matted as if it had wandered for weeks without care. Ayaan knew struggle all too well. He had spent the last few months fighting through the losses life had thrown at him. His job had slipped through his fingers after the company downsized. His relationship had ended abruptly, leaving his apartment feeling hollow. And somewhere along the way, he began believing that kindness was a luxury the world no longer cared about. But as he held that fragile life in his arms, something warm flickered inside him, something he thought he had lost, the quiet courage to care again. He carried the puppy home, cleaned it carefully, and placed it on an old towel near his bed. He didn't know what to name it yet, but its eyes, big, dark, full of silent stories, felt like they were saying thank you in the most innocent way. That night, as Ayaan sat by the window, the city lights glowing outside, he found himself speaking softly to the little creature. He talked about his lost job, about his dreams that once felt bright, about the loneliness that had crawled into every corner of his days. The puppy watched him with a stillness that resembled understanding. And for the first time in months, Ayaan fell asleep without that heavy weight pressing against his chest. The next day dawned bright and warm. Sunlight sliced through the curtains, casting golden lines across the floor. Ayaan woke to an unexpected sound, soft scratching near his door. The puppy, somehow stronger, was trying to push something small toward him. Ayaan blinked, sat up slowly, and noticed a folded piece of paper lying beneath the puppy's paw. Confused, he lifted it and realized it wasn't just any paper, it was an old envelope, stained with dirt, the corner torn as if dragged across the ground. There was handwriting on it. His heartbeat quickened when he read his own last name on the front. He opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a letter, old, faded, but unmistakably in his late father's handwriting. For a moment, the world seemed to vanish. His father had passed away years ago. How could this letter have found its way to him now? Ayaan's eyes scanned the words, his breath catching as the message unfolded, a final note his father had written but never delivered, a letter meant for Ayaan during a time when they had drifted apart due to misunderstandings and the growing distance between father and son. The message was full of regret and love. His father had apologized for not being the man he needed during critical moments. He wrote about wanting to tell Ayaan how proud he was, how he believed his son's heart was capable of changing lives. Never let the world make you hard, the letter said. Even on days you feel broken, kindness will guide you home. Tears blurred Ayaan's vision. He clutched the letter to his chest, overwhelmed by the realization that the puppy, this lost little soul, had led him to something priceless, something he didn't even know he still needed. A part of him had been aching for closure, for forgiveness, for a message that somehow found its way back across the bridge of time. But the unbelievable part wasn't just the letter. Later that afternoon, as Ayaan stepped outside to let the puppy explore the small patch of sunlight near his porch, an elderly man approached slowly from across the street. His clothes were worn, his posture slightly bent, but his eyes held a gentle clarity. He introduced himself as Faraz and explained that he lived a few blocks away. He then said something that caused Ayaan to freeze. Months ago, he had found belongings in a sealed box his late friend had left behind Ayaan's father. Among the items was a letter addressed to Ayaan, but Faraz could not find an updated address and had been holding on to it, unsure how to deliver it. Yesterday, he had lost sight of the box for a moment when he was sitting near the park. He believed the puppy must have been playing around the area and somehow dragged the envelope out, as though guided by something beyond explanation. Ayaan stared at the puppy, disbelief mixing with awe. Something in the universe, something unseen, had aligned paths at just the right moment. The puppy wagged its tail as if proud of its mission. Ayaan knelt and hugged it, overwhelmed by a sense of gratitude he could barely put into words. From that day forward, small changes began blooming quietly in Ayaan's life. He felt lighter, grounded, connected. He found a renewed sense of direction, applying for jobs with confidence instead of despair. Neighbors who saw him caring for the puppy began reaching out, offering help, companionship, conversations he once felt too tired to entertain. Even his home, once silent and empty, now echoed with the soft patter of tiny paws and the warmth of shared moments. The puppy, whom he eventually named Miracle, became the heartbeat of his new beginning. And every time Ayaan read the letter, he felt as if his father's love had returned to guide him through the storm he once feared he would never escape. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our W Insights. Your engagement helps more people experience stories that remind us of hope, healing, and the powerful connections that shape our lives.